Thank you and welcome to the show this morning. The topic this morning is the Tennessee Minority Supplier Development Council, and we're fortunate to have with us two members from the Tennessee Minority Development Council to talk about that organization this morning. First of all, Mr. DNelson. Mr. DNelson is the Deputy Director of the Tennessee Supplier Development Council, and of course with Mr. DNelson is Mr. DFuller. Mr. Fuller is the President of Suppliers, Inc. And let me welcome both of you, Mr. Nelson and Mr. Fuller, to the show this morning. Mr. Nelson, I know that somewhere along the line we might have mispronounced the names of these organizations, but nevertheless I think most people understand that these are organizations that are primarily developed, primarily intended for the development of minority businesses this morning. So before we get into that, let's have you and Mr. Fuller to give us some information about your background, your education, and some of the things that were important, in your case, Mr. Nelson, in leading you to the Deputy Directorship of the Tennessee Minority Development Council this morning. Let's talk about that, and of course Mr. Fuller will give us similar information about his background and education, and then we'll get into some of the problems and some of the successes of these organizations this morning.
Okay, well, Dr. Haney, I think I've been blessed to be able to graduate from one of the best universities in the country, Tennessee State University. Secured my undergraduate degree in history, which you were one of my professors over there, from 1975 through 79, and graduated in 1980 with a master's in public administration. And when I left Nashville in 1980, I always had in the back of my mind that, Nashville is a nice place to live, cost of living is reasonable. I think I might want to make it my permanent home. So for 3 years, I worked for the city of Pittsburgh. In 1983, an opening occurred back at TSU that I applied for, was fortunate enough to secure. Came back to Nashville in 1983, worked for the university for a couple of years. Then in 1985, was fortunate enough to be selected as the city's first minority business coordinator. And from 85 through 87, worked in that capacity for the city. Then in 1987, had the, again, fortunate luck to meet with Cherry Henderson, current executive director of the Tennessee Minority Supplier Development Council. And she and I hit it off in terms of good relationship, and she offered me a job as the current capacity I'm in now as deputy director, and I've been there ever since.
Very good. Mr. Fuller, let's talk about your organization. Now, you're the president of Suppliers, Inc.
I'm president of Supplies Unlimited.
Unlimited, Inc.
Exactly.
Very good. Let's talk about that organization.
Okay, what it is, it's an office supply company. We furnish office supplies for all type of businesses, be it small or large. Our specialty is customer service and next-day delivery. The company is actually relatively new. Prior to it being Supplies Unlimited, it was known as Major Office Supplies. And Harvey Major and myself decided to go into business and create the company, now known as Supplies Unlimited.
You know, Mr. Fuller, I think that people are probably curious about your background and some of the things that were important in your career, as they undoubtedly are curious in reference to Mr. Nelson's background. Why don't you give us some information while we do have the camera on you,
okay,
dealing with where, your background and some of the things that were important before you became involved in that organization.
Well, prior to becoming the president of Supplies Unlimited, I worked with a small minority company called Papers Incorporated. I am from Nashville, actually a homegrown person if you so desire to call it that, and graduated from Tennessee State University in 1985, went to work for corporate America. I was with Federal Express, the 3M Company, and Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Tennessee. And during my tenure with those companies, I realized that there was actually only so far that one could actually go. I think we call it a glass ceiling. So I decided to go to work for a small minority company that was very new, very exciting, which was an opportunity for me to do. Did that for about 1.5 years, and then decided to start my own company, which is Supplies Unlimited. So that's brought us up to where I am today.
And so you've been involved in